Good day, everyone. Oh, there we go. Now we're in. The audio should work, because guess what? I'm not playing music. I didn't realize that playing music hogs just enough resources to really interfere with my audio. So, if you guys have been patient or impatient, we can be thankful that Prairie Banana figured that out. Let's go. Actually, it was AI that helped me figure that out. Good day, good day.
What's up, Banana?
Another day in the trenches, man. Another day in the trenches. How are you?
Good.
Cool. Good deal. I'm pulling up Deck Screener right now. If you guys on YouTube, if you let me know if my audio is good, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, also for anyone listening, if you want to see any visuals while we're going over some stuff, Banana has a lot of visuals as we're talking over some of these subjects. So also, if you don't want to come up, you can write comments over there as well. And Banana will kind of voice your comments.
Yes. Yeah. So YouTube, you heard it. Ask any questions. Trying to think if I've had any questions in the last few days. Oh, there was one. Let me pull it up in my mind. Actually, I think it's on. I have a question on in Telegram. I just got to find it. It was a decent question. I might beat him to the punch. I don't. Let me see if he jumps in. Killed on Hex. If he doesn't jump in, I'm going to ask his question. He won't mind. And if he does, he'll get over it.
Oh no,
he's my buddy. What's that?
Killed on Hex is super cool, man.
Yeah,
but ask his question though. Ask it. He always asks good questions.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'll do it because we have a request. Let me see, man. I'm totally having a deja vu over this, man. You ever get those? I haven't had one in a while, man. Okay, I gotta find it. So give me a minute. Maybe you guys can chat while I find it.
Yeah, I still remember the first deja vu I had my whole entire life, because I never even knew what it was before then. When I was a kid, I still remember it to this day.
Really?
Your first day job?
No, deja vu.
Oh, deja vu. What was it?
It was when I played tennis as a kid, and it was like in a point that I had, and I felt like, like I've experienced that exact point and situation before.
Uh-huh.
I remember afterwards I went to my parents, obviously I'm like a 12-year-old at this time or something.
Whoa.
Like that. I'm just like, because I didn't even know what a deja vu was. So I'm just like, I don't know what's going on, but I think I saw the future or something like that.
Well, what I just experienced, it was I have been here before. Like I've had this conversation, been told by Mando to just go ahead and ask the question from this gentleman. I was like, what?
I like
very
being
strange.
The core of a deja vu, man.
Making it feel important. So he asked.
It was a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah, I know. That's what I've come to been led to believe. How do you tackle these blockchain analysts? I'm sure that was said sarcastically. How do you tackle these blockchain analysts who keep saying pTGC has $13 million in liquidity, but the top 3 wallets hold about $33 million worth of tokens? Yeah, I don't know anything more than look at the wallets and see how tightly they're holding their tokens. But do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so that's any crypto asset, right? Like any crypto that is, I'd say, in the top 1,000 of crypto tokens has something very similar to that. Our market cap to liquidity ratio is actually a lot better than the majority of assets that exist. And this isn't just even crypto. Pretty much every single market in a way is fractional. If the large players in the real estate market all started dumping all of their real estate, they would crash the real estate market. So big players do have a form of responsibility, but by fulfilling that responsibility, by helping to hold the price up, they're actually making their net worth more. And what's unique about the pTGC system is as they hold the price up for other people to participate in the community to grow, the system actually incentivizes them to do so via an APY that comes from a fully deflationary asset. But yeah, what they're bringing up is this isn't just pTGC. This is every crypto that exists. This is PulseChain. This is PulseX. This is ETH. This is Solana. I could just BNB. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I also think that, it's noteworthy that when they say the top three, I mean, the top wallet is the debt address with almost 13% in it. It can never be sold again.
There you go.
Including that one stupid.
Yeah, it's a good point too.
Yeah.
And like Zen shared the other day, we basically have a whale that's buying these tokens off the market every day and sending them into that address, which means that those tokens can never again hit the market. And that's ever increasing the yield percentage for holders. So yeah, remove the debt address when talking like that. And then look at some of the top cryptos in terms of distribution.
There you go. Good answers. The Beached Whale asks, what is
sometimes even having players like that, and there's no guarantee what bigger players within pTGC are going to do in the future, but obviously to date, they've been known for supporting the project by holding up the price. They believe in the project long term. We wouldn't be here if this wasn't the case. Obviously, in a bull market, people are going to take profits. I don't think whales are any different. I think they will take profits too. But just judging by the last 2 years of data that we've had off of the whales in the pTGC system, is they want to see pTGC succeed. And I think they'll be very ethical and responsible on any profit taking if they do so at some point. And then also their position is earning passive APY just for holding up the price, which in a world where there isn't too many great assets to store value in to hedge yourself against the inflation of the dollar, if we actually have a new style financial system over here on PulseChain that actually gives users real self-custody of their assets, because even if you think about the real self-custody outside of PulseChain, even like real self-custody of stables and stuff like that, like technically those stables can be blacklisted at any moment. So yes, you have self-custody, but especially with where laws are shifting, there is regulation to them, and they are making it to where they can shut things off. PulseChain might be one of the only places, especially with SEC clarity, to where you actually have self-custody of your assets. So I think a large portion of value will stay on chain in what pTGC is designed to be, a premier store of value.
You did a great post the other day that was showing the amount of revenue that was being generated per week. I think it was 217,000 last week.
Yeah.
And so if you hold 1% of the supply and the volume just 3x's from there, a holder is making between $15,000 and $16,000 a month in passive income at volumes that are not much higher from here.
Yep. Yes, we're looking forward to that volume. The Beached Whale has a question. What is Coach's story with this project?
So I met Coach before pTGC was even launched. I was working on pTGC for years prior to that event, and then I met him before it was launched, and he's he wanted to help with the building up the community and getting the word out there of what the product was. I explained the product to him before the product was even launched, and he busted ass on building this community up and, getting it out there, and was very valuable to the success of the product long term, just like a lot of other community members as well.
He's been a very hard worker.
Yep.
He's been a very hard worker. There's one founder though, and that's Zen.
Yeah.
Going back to what we were talking about with the APY being decent for large players at just a 3x from here, right, Mando? That's kind of what you're getting at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because the conversation of, people holding up the price and being benevolent and all this, it doesn't mean anything unless you can actually show people why, somebody holding 0.5% or 1% or whatever, why would it be different than any other meme coin, right? Right? Because the only way that you can make money is by selling in a meme coin.
Yeah, I think that's an important topic. The first things I would kind of relay is, as PulseChain becomes more successful, that APY naturally will increase. So you'll be incentivized with, a monthly payout, a yearly payout, a weekly payout, depending on how regular someone wants to take profits. And even if they want to take profits, they might just let it compound to grow their position. But then also, if the asset over a long term has the sustainability, the security, and the price appreciation that's far better than other things that exist, after they kind of have their in real life situated, I think if this actually becomes a premier store of value, like our goal is with the success of PulseChain, I think they'll store a lot of value here, not just for the APY, but for the security, the self-custody, and for the price depreciation that can get delivered mechanically, not solely just on human demand. So those constant buy and burns, and stuff like that, what's going on. Also the fact that we're bonded to multiple types of assets and we generate revenue off of their movements. But then on top of that, the scarcity, right? They can actually comfortably know that in a year from now, there's going to be far less tokens than there is today.
Yeah, so I put up in the Jumbotron then your post. Maybe you want to go over those numbers just real quick, because that's a great way for everybody to take a look at that.
Yeah, so the weekly total, just for anyone listening, what pTGC generated in the last 7 days is $217,000 of value. Keep in mind, PulseChain is still half or below half of SAC price. And the numbers that we're running, and even off of the data in the last month, which is giving us even better analytics and news than we're even predicting in these simulations, what we're predicting is as PulseChain moves up X's, the value generation and volume will move up at least an even amount. So if PulseChain, let's say, does a 10x from here, we're actually making a prediction that we should be around $2,100,000 of value generation weekly. But let's just use the numbers that we're at today for this example. We generated $217,000 in the last week. That's $23,000 that went automatically to the buy and burn through the automated buy and burn within pTGC. That's $23,000 going to the automatic liquidity ad. So that's one thing really unique about pTGC is every single transaction is actually giving the protocol more and more and more liquidity. Obviously what we have right now is 2 years in the running, but imagine 5 years down the road with PulseChain actually going up where our liquidity could be. That's $92,000 going to the DAO, which gives us the ability to do buy and burns LP ads just with a little bit more pivotability. And then we had $46,000 going to pTGC holders. So you can just hold pTGC and earn pTGC. And that's $46,000 for pTGC stakers. If you're a staker, you're earning both holding and staking rewards. So roughly that's $100,000. Someone who's a whale in the system, obviously they would be getting more than 1% of that because not everyone's taking, not everyone's holding. If I had to guess, you'd be close to $1,500 in APY earned in the last week. And that's at technically the bottom of PulseChain. If PulseChain does a 10x from here, we could make an educated prediction that $1,500 weekly could easily turn into $15,000 weekly, which would be $60,000 a month in a passive income that's getting paid in a hyper-deflationary asset that's very scarce, that's backed by real value generation, not just inflation, which came from no. When you pay someone out inflation, those tokens got into your wallet with not any value going into the liquidity to back that asset's price. With this system, every APY that's paid out to you actually had to come from real value going into the chart. So even if this user decides to sell all of his APY, it's backed by an actual purchase. That's the only way the funds could get to the holder. And even more than that, every time APY is being paid out, there's also value that's being generated going to LP ads and buy and burns at the same time, actually like double backing the APY.
I mean, the 10x of the volume from there, from here, from the numbers on the Jumbotron, just the Dow alone is bringing in $1 million a week.
Yep, pretty much.
That's $4 million a month just going to the Dow.
Mm-hmm.
At the bottom of PulseChain.
Pretty much what, 50 million give or take, or just a little bit less than 50 million a year going to the Dow at that point.
Yeah, people don't get it. I mean, it's an absolute. Show me a cryptocurrency that generates $50 million, $100 million a year just to the Dow.
And we're at the bottom. We're at the bottom of PulseChain, and I was looking at the volume for Ethereum, and I know there's no comparison. Ethereum has something like $370 million in volume every day, something like that. No, I'm sorry. It's a 370x more volume on Ethereum than on PulseChain. Like 370x. I was doing the math yesterday. I'm like, wow, we have a lot of room to grow. Just PulseChain.
So the interesting thing is that let's just say, Zen, that we did a 10x volume, 20x volume, and then it just stopped. And that volume just stayed constant, kind of at a higher level. Didn't go up, didn't go down. Right? The way that the mechanics work is that the value of the tokens here, less anyone that wanted to relinquish their tokens, once that rebalancing would be done, whoever wants to sell gets out or whatever. But the value of the tokens just by math just have to perpetually go up from there. There's no way you can have a 10x, 20x the volume on PulseChain with this system, and whoever sells, and when you run out of sellers, what happens, right?
Yeah, I talked about this previously. The numbers that I've simulated, which, who knows if they're completely right. I'm using in a form of a moon math calculator, but what I'm coming up with is if you take away a net positive amount of buy pressure or a net negative amount of buy pressure, who knows what will happen in the future. Let's just say it's stagnant. We just have even amounts of buyers and sellers. What pTGC would do mechanically yearly is a 3x over what PulseChain's doing. And that's where I mean the constant price appreciation and sustainability could actually be better in this store of value than other serious store of values that exist, because even if there's sell pressure on the chart, That's 3x that we could absorb of sell pressure and still remain at the same level, right? That could mean that the rest of the market moves down, a 60% retracement, and we might only experience a 20% retracement. These are all hypotheticals, but I think it's worth thinking about that we can absorb a lot of that sell pressure, or even in a bull market where there's actual buy pressure, we amplify that buy pressure due to those mechanical functions.
Yeah, being kind of future, vision minded, I can envision, at the tail end of the bear, the system's kind of doing that. PulseChain goes up to whatever levels of volume. We go into a bear, people take profits, whatever happens, most stuff just drops 80, 90%. That every damn time. I don't know what the system will do, but at the bottom of whatever that is, this system would be coiled up like an absolute spring, right? At some point, it would hit a tipping point that's just astronomical if all kind of works the way we've been seeing it. Because you would have so much demand from the system, and you'd have so many more people that have trust in the system to either to re-enter or to take new positions, and you'd have people front running what they perceive would be a floor, in my opinion.
I also think one of the biggest features is the amount of tokens that is getting bought by the system that will never re-enter the market again. That's one thing that I've found very interesting about the last 6 months is that whole bottom floor of PulseChain and pTGC. The biggest purchasers of pTGC was the debt address, which I'm calling the killer whale.
Killer whale.
I know, man. Seeing 37 million pTGC sent to the debt address the other day that was gangster, dude. It was so awesome.
Because think about this: the last 90 days, which is 3 months, we had $300,000 generated from the DAO. Pretty much all of that has went to buy and burns. So that's $300,000 of pTGC purchased off of the market by just the DAO for buy and burns. There was the $74,000 of automated buy and burns by pTGC. So we're at 374, and then you have UFO as well, buying and burning pTGC, which was another 50,000. So we're over $400,000 of buy and burns in just the last 90 days. And if you think of a standard project, okay, well, that demand usually only comes from humans. And, let's say it's around 500,000. Eventually that 500,000 takes profits in the future. But this whale never takes profits, and he never stops buying every single day for the rest of the existence of PulseChain. That's why I'm kind of just calling him the killer whale now, because he's literally just killing all these pTGC tokens.
Mm-hmm.
The way I like to frame it is there's this big killer whale, and he's just lurking in the shadows for you to relinquish your tokens. It's like that awesome GIF where Richard Hart, he's like, oh, your weekend set them free. and the killer whale just comes in there, man, and just buys up all the tokens you don't want anymore and just says, okay, you didn't value them, see you later, get them out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you kind of start to think what happens when the inflow of value actually starts coming into PulseChain, when this marketing on PulseChain actually starts and people actually start coming over that bridge, and they're looking at, what assets exist on PulseChain, what they can actually expose themselves to. We've had little glimpses of this with people every time PLS has moved up. And a lot of that value, not all of it, but a good portion of it has found value in grabbing a bag of pTGC and UFO. Well, moving forward, I don't see there being a difference there, right? I think when new people start coming in, when this big marketing campaign is, I think they're going to land on PulseChain. Of course, hold some PLS, some X, PulseX, but I also think they're going to see some value in pTGC and UFO. And it's going to be those new users plus this killer whale, the dead address, plus UFO, which is also pretty much the killer whale because it's the dead address, all competing for only 2% of the supply. As long as no one massive just sells into the chart. If our community as a whole understands, hey, this is the floor, you know, let's keep this level and let's let this thing move up, because as pTGC moves up, as PulseChain moves up, our chart just keeps looking great, and that keeps onboarding people to this product. And this isn't even just for this cycle. This is multiple cycles out.
We did see an increase in new wallet holders in the Grays ecosystem in July. It was the highest month since March.
How many?
25 per day. I think it was 788 new wallets for the whole month.
Yeah, it was over 700. Yep.
And
Phenomenal.
that was the highest month since February. In February, we had 1,335.
Yeah, February is our all-time high too, so that makes sense.
January was our all-time high at 1,434.
Right,
but close. That time frame, right?
Well, I meant price. I think February was the all-time high in price. So it kind of makes sense that that's when we're having the most new wallets, new users buying the asset, right?
Yep.
That's also close to when PulseChain was highest. So obviously PulseChain was high because people were flooding into PulseChain and putting their value in assets on chain. As pTGC onboards, as Hex onboards, as PulseX onboards, as even other assets on chain onboards, as we're successful, this value has to come into PulseChain first, right? So anytime someone comes into PulseChain for a specific asset like pTGC, UFO, or some of these other ones, Hex, PulseX, they have to increase PulseChain. So PLS automatically goes up, which actually lifts all of these sustainable assets that are built on PulseChain.
We saw, and I'm tracking new Pulse wallets. So there were 38,000 new Pulse wallets in June, and in July there were 21,000. I'm hoping we'll see more in August. I've got a hunch that August is going to, this month is going to be a good month, much like July was, but hopefully better. Does anybody care to come up and speak? Who has any questions?
Yeah, Banana team, Zen, Mando.
What's up, Q?
What's up, guys? Thought I'd just come up and everything you're saying is I agree with everything, and I don't know. I just feel like we're getting to that time where the marketing with RH is going to land very soon, and just looking at the macro for crypto and the macro for everything else, it's getting to that point where I feel like it's gonna get very exciting. So I wouldn't mind chatting about the new capital that's going to come into PulseChain with the whole marketing push that's going to happen from different avenues over the next weeks and months or whatever it is. Do we see these new investors coming across as already crypto bros, already in the crypto space, but just from different chains, or do we see new investors coming in that are newbies coming into crypto and then coming straight onto PulseChain because maybe the marketing is going to be so explosive that they come across? And then I guess the real question I've got is, and maybe the elephant in the room is, how is it all going to come across? What's the volume? How's it going to flow? And then once it does come across, I mean, I know personally that pTGC and UFO are one of the biggest and the loudest, altcoins on PulseChain. But how have we got it out there? How have we got our marketing out there to show them that we are, so that we grab their attention? straight away, that they might nibble on the cause, or they might just come across, or maybe they've already heard of us and they're coming across and, you know, and they jump into the call, but they also jump into pTGC and UFO straight away as well.
So I think that it's important to note that if you go on Google and YouTube and you put in PulseChain, you have a lot of influencers that have put in a lot of work on YouTube, which is one of the number one ways that people find whatever they're looking for when they're searching for something, right? I think Crypto Coffee has a very strong presence there. But I think it's important to just realize that we have people that are talking about PulseChain already on YouTube, and then we have a sub community that are talking about pTGC and the ecosystem there as well. And I think more of that is about to come online. But then it's also like what Zen says, right? Like, if people come over the bridge to PulseChain and they buy up Richard's cores first, well, what does that do to pTGC? Indirectly, but very directly, right?
Yeah, it's a double push-up. Either they buy the cause, which automatically reprices our LP pools, but then if they come into our sub-ecosystem, then they're directly pushing us up by buying the assets, which is amazing.
That is the very thing that sparks the Lamborghini engine of this machine and turns it into just a revenue-generating monster.
Yeah, totally. And it's exciting to think about. But I'm just wondering, you know, are these going to be already crypto savvy people coming?
It's going to be both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be both.
You are not going to have Richard Hart's blockchain with everybody from Rand to Wendy to Ivan on Tech to everybody that's in crypto that knows Richard. You are not going to have PulseChain blast off and those people not talking about it, man.
It's got to be the case, right? Because I feel like we're still getting gate-kept to a certain extent. Like even,
PulseChain's got to get over. PulseChain's got to get original sacrificers in their green, man, before anybody's going to start doing that.
So that's when it starts. That's when it'll really start.
Listen, if you listen to what Ivan on Tech always says, he's one of the biggest influencers, smartest guys in the space. What does he always say? He always talks about the sacrificers and how they're still upside down.
He does. That's his big, like, you just can't get over that. That's the big.
Yeah. So as an influencer, do you want to talk about something where everybody's upside down?
No, you don't. Not a chance. Because you can just shoot it down straight away. So you're right. We're here. We benefit from going up to SAC. Everyone who's in this ecosystem, as in PulseChain, the white PulseChain layer 1 and everything on it. And once it gets to that point, then the main KOLs, if they don't start talking about it and it starts rocketing with those green candles, which is the best marketing of all, then they're going to lose following.
Think about the mindset, the FOMO, man. Once PulseChain breaches that and starts moving up, and Richard starts bold posting, just those simple charts. Oh, nice chart today, up 99%. Nice chart today, up 150%.
And Rand ignoring the bubbles every time he talks about, what's going on in crypto today in the top 100 and the top 200. And then you see the RH tokens there in nice big fat green, but he doesn't talk about it.
I think, Kuhn, that's like worth bringing up because there definitely is days where Hex is like the biggest bubble or Pulse is the biggest bubble, but I think they can still currently ignore it just where we are in market price. But like Mando was saying, as soon as we're passing SAC or 2 times SAC, 3 times SAC, and we have those massive bubbles on the weekly or monthly or daily, there does come a point where you can't ignore it any longer. And I think it's fair for them to currently ignore it at these low prices, just because if you look at the chart, like a 20% up day doesn't really mean anything, right? Like all the sacrifices are still at a loss. But when all the sacrifices are up 3x and let's say we have another 20% day and then a 50% day, I think this is the real tipping point where the mainstream influencers, especially if PulseChain is bringing attention, like if a lot of attention on YouTube and social media is getting drawn to PulseChain, they are actually financially incentivized to talk about PulseChain because that's going to boost their algorithm.
Yeah, totally. And there's also that. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that because, you know, if an asset goes up 20%, say just use 20% as an example, 20% every day, you know, for 20 days straight or a month straight, then that compounding effect is just like ends up being huge towards the end of that run. So yeah, they can't.
Yeah, I think it's a 10% move for 43 days straight is a 50x. If I remember correctly.
A 10% move. Wow. See, I haven't even done the numbers on that, but that's So if you're doing anywhere between 10 to 20% per day on average, you hit a 50x around a month's time or just over. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
so that's easily doable for us once we start the mania. And I guess this leads into the discussion. Good segue is, and we've got some great minds here, so anyone come up and jump in and speak. What does everyone see as like the best bridges that these, you know, the fresh liquidity, new onboarders, new investors will come across on? Will they be using the Richard Hart PulseChain bridge? Will they be deciding to use, you know, Liberty Swap and, you know, these new ways to come across a lot quicker? What's everyone's thoughts on that?
I think that they should only use the official PulseChain bridge or something like a Liberty Swap, you know, that's being vetted as we go. I mean, that's, you know, there's obviously going to be more things that actually come online, but the bridge and Liberty Swap or trusted things like, you know, the aggregators like Change Now and stuff like that, until you have an centralized exchange listing. But what other options are there?
I mean, there really aren't any others. I think you can buy, I mean, obviously you can buy PulseChain on ETH over that side. But yeah, but that's just Hex and PulseChain, really. I don't think anything else is on that.
I'm going to look that up. I'll look that up, by the way. See how much LP is on ETH right now.
Yeah, I think the LP on ETH, obviously Hex on ETH, but then also PulseChain on ETH. I don't know if any of the other, I don't think PulseX is on there. Yeah, I haven't checked. But anyway, it's just interesting to think about. But yeah, I'm picturing a world where RH does his marketing campaign. Like, to tell you the truth, the marketing campaign's already commenced, and it's happening under our noses. And we, you know, a lot of us see it. Sorry, a lot of us don't see it. Some of us do see it, but you know, the chain's starting to move up. The fact that the PulseChain website and Hex website have been updated so they look flash and nice and new. And I personally think that was that was done by design. Like, he kept them dumbed down and clunky and shit for the first couple of years because you need to upgrade them at the right time, because crypto is everything about timing. You know, so that started, and then obviously these, whatever it is that's coming out in these containers and packages that get distributed, however, and then they onboard new investors will happen. But there'll be other things like, I mean, Liberty Swap that came out of nowhere. So that was another thing. So that all these nuggets will start dropping, I feel, in the next weeks and months that will just catch us by surprise.
Yeah, crypto is definitely an attention economy. So I believe throughout the next few months, you're completely right. I think every few weeks there'll be a new little thing dropped, if it's just an update or if it's at least some chart action or, you know, Liberty Swap adding some tokens. You have to have something constantly happening. So I agree with you. I think everyone only has so much ammo. This is my favorite analogy. Like, if you're in a situation where you only have so much ammo, do you drop boots on the ground and just spray all that ammo right when you land, or do you strategically wait until you see your target? Right? Retail is the target. New users coming in is the target. You don't deploy that capital. You don't shoot your ammo until they are actually ready to come on over. And one of the best indicators of them coming on over is ETH's price going up, because when ETH's price goes up, that means retail is flowing in. When retail is flowing in, that's when you can actually see the target, and that's the best time to use whatever ammunition you have. In Richard Card's case, that could be on ramps, that could be a wallet, that could be, maybe his own stable coin, that could be new updated websites, that could just be injection of funds and creating green charts, that could be him streaming, or just at least new videos, etc.
Yeah, totally, Zen. And I think, I don't know, I think everyone obviously in this space knows about pTGC and UFO. They know how loud we are in the community, as in PulseChain abroad, and how powerful the assets are. I don't know if everyone's aware of what globally is happening now, but obviously with the Fed and in the US and the fact that they didn't cut rates, but then I've done some digging around over the last couple of days, and also information that's come out on the unemployment numbers really means that the Fed should have cut rates. So I've got a feeling, and some reputable sources that haven't come out with this publicly yet, but I'll say this here. That because they got it so wrong, you could see in the next week to week and a half information come out, and then even potential emergency rate cuts. Potential. So if that happens, that sparks, risk on assets, being able to start running, Ethereum running, and then this all might happen very quickly from that point.
Well, they just had the FOMC meeting, and for the first time in 35 years, you had two of the chairmen completely dissent what Powell's doing.
Yeah, there you go.
They're literally telling him.
There you go.
Two of his main guys, you're completely out of your mind right now. What you're doing is reckless, is what they're actually telling him.
Wow.
Well, yeah, okay. So that's another piece of information that sort of, backs up that theory I just mentioned as well, Mando. And the fact is that, it's. Yeah,
we got about a 70% chance of a rate cut in September, dude, or before.
Yeah, I reckon, the emergency rate cut, if that happens, that's huge, because that hasn't happened in God knows how long. And the fact is that they'll need to put the bonds, so the percentage of those sort of slightly falling and dropping away, and the fact that the S&P 500, they'll want to make sure they prop that up, because they'll want to make sure they save any kind of the correction's happening now. So that could get propped up, and we could see a serious surge happen once a list. So and that could be the catalyst. But anyway, I don't want to get too off topic, but get excited. This is potentially the catalyst around the corner. And what does that mean for PulseChain, and what does that mean for pTGC and UFO? It means that this is maybe the last dip you see. So stock up and strap your seat and get ready, because it could be in for a while. Right?
Can I have just a more broader statement, right? Is crypto going anywhere anytime soon? No.
Nope.
It's not. Price is going to ebb. Price is going to flow. Everyone that has a brain knows crypto's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So it's just time, right? You can't have these assets that are deflationary with most of the world still not in. And I know that, people are like, the big entities they're just starting to come out. But I mean the world population, right? We're still very new to that.
Yeah, totally, Amanda.
PulseChain's not going anywhere, dude.
No,
right?
Not going anywhere. And the fact that you've got the killer whale lurking in the background. So if this all switches on, like it's game on. It's just, I can see it happening. But I think with all of us having 4 years of recency bias of on the charts just to the right and kind of go down with PulseChain, that is, and Hex. I'm not talking about pTGC and UFO, but the cores, it's hard to imagine a world where the cores start exploding, start running like we've seen our assets.
Well, that's because, Cocoon, you know that in the back of your mind, if that happens, it's going to be astronomical.
And the crazy thing is, we had a few. I'm not going to say. I just want to put it nicely. I guess less educated people in the Telegram chat over the last couple of days, where our price for pTGC and UFO was sort of stagnating after they did a 200 to 300% run. Like, I don't know why anyone would be whinging with that. Anyway,
yes.
Beyond me. And
well, because he top blasted. He bought the top, man.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but what? One day you can't wait. One day he must be one of those Solana bros that's literally a 15-minute TikToker, and then he's on to the next best thing. But they're getting antsy, and then on top of that, they're thinking that there's more sell pressure than buy pressure, and then that's going to continue, in their minds, for the rest of the bull run and beyond, which is just ludicrous because the amount of capital that's going to come across that bridge is going to dwarf what we all hold, in combination in terms of assets here, that we're just not ready for it. Like, we've got that recency bias, we just can't see it. Like, I can picture it, but it's hard for me to believe. So yeah, I think it's hard for us to see.
Yeah, Coon. No one really even knows what a real amount of value flowing over that bridge is going to look like for pTGC, UFO, and all of RH's tickers. What we've experienced for the last 2 years of PulseChain is literally a bucket with holes in the bottom. There's been value leaving this chain for the most part the entire last 2 years. And, obviously pTGC has had the success it's had. Even the RH tickers have kind of done fairly well considering the fact that all this value has left. You have PulseX with way less supply on the market than there was. Hex has actually held up pretty well considering. I'm personally really in favor of the APY cuts because breaking that inflation down of the product, I think, is going to do a lot for it when the demand comes in. But when a net positive amount of value, not for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, like we've seen in the past 1 week, of value flowing over that bridge, when actual real quantities of value flow over that bridge and stay for more than a week, what that does to not only pTGC and UFO, but also the other RH tickers and other sustainable tokens on chain as well. We're not the only ones operating off of this mechanic. We obviously amplify this mechanic with our code, but it's going to create a super thriving ecosystem for all to win, right? It's not just pTGC and UFO winning. I think just the people holding RH tokens are going to win too. I think people holding some pump tire tokens are going to win. I think some P-copy tokens are going to win because the net positive flow of value over that bridge is huge. PLS actually going up and then sustaining a 2x, 4x, 5x, 10x is massive. Because what we're seeing is even when RH tickers more recently went up, they went up majority from people moving funds from alt tokens to RH tickers on chain. This wasn't necessarily a ton of new value flowing over that bridge. There was new value that flowed over the bridge, but not enough, like not an actual amount that's significant. It's just rotating the same funds around here. But imagine what happens when actual new value flows over that bridge. Let's say $100 million flows over. Yeah, a very good portion of it could land solely in RH tickers. But imagine value flowing into RH tickers that didn't come from on-chain liquidity already. Imagine it being brand new capital. Well, that brand new capital is going to raise RH tickers and the assets that are bonded to those tickers. And then let's say a portion of it also gets stripped down to the most sustainable alts on chain like pTGC. Well, like you were saying earlier, that's just an additional X or additional percentage gains on top of whatever we got for free already from just our bonded assets going up from that positive amount of value flowing over that bridge. And we've seen what this looks like in very small amounts, 3x, 5x. But could you imagine how nice it's going to feel when this happens in the form of a 10x, 20x, possibly 30x?
Yes, and it couldn't be more spot on. Like, you know, going back to your analogy of the leaky bucket, and then plugging those holes. But we've really just seen a leaky bucket with the holes in it, and maybe, you know, slowly over the last period, you know, one of the two holes have been plugged, but we haven't really seen a pour or a huge dump of water into that bucket.
Yeah, we've plugged the holes. We've plugged the holes, but we haven't put the hose back in the top yet.
That's it. But the hose hasn't been like a fire hydrant. So what we're expecting, well, what I'm expecting, and what I think a lot of us like think, but they can't foresee, you know, it might be a little bit of the elephant in the room, is the fact that, you know, all of these, you know, Richard Hardy's timing almost to perfection. You've got the upgrades to the websites. You've got the fact that he's doing the marketing push with the packages. You've got, you know, onboarding ways into PulseChain, into the layer one, with different swaps and everything else happening now that are just popping up. And, you know, that's not to say, like, I saw on Spaces about 4 or 5 days ago, the fact that Richard Hart and also PulseChain or Hex was actually trending. It was trending on the main overall space, like X. So I think there's like to what Mando was saying before, if you go to Google and you search in, you know, the AdWords in Google, I think in the background there's a lot of that happening, and we'll start seeing in the next couple of weeks that type of marketing is actually going to bring the label of PulseChain and this ecosystem, this layer one, and then, you know, obviously ours, it will just start trending, and just it's that snowball. Once you get motion, it just you know, exponentially runs.
You know, Ku, the thing is, man, is that I think that a lot of people, including yourself and a lot of people, right, no matter how much you believe, you get exhausted with the journey if you've been here from the beginning, especially. And you start to think, well, how is this ever going to... But the reality is it's the exact opposite. Because when you have people that are at the highest level of marketing, that have unending amounts of resources, and that are massively incentivized to see their products do very well in the world, it only takes an instant for that positive outbound messaging into the world to overtake all the BS shit that you've seen in the last 2 years.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was trying to say.
The large majority of the people that are out there in the world, they don't know anything about the last 3 or 4 years. Zero.
And they quickly, and the people in here will quickly forget about it as soon as that catalyst happens. They'll quickly forget about it, even though it's been 4 years of pain in the cause, like pain.
And now that, you know, we're on this side of history, now that you have that kind of regulatory clarity, now that Richard has beat the adversary, and you have the proof in the pudding with that, which very few people have, right? Everybody, even Charles Hoskinson had to come back out, and he literally did the right thing and apologized to Richard.
Yeah. Oh, that was awesome to see.
The founder of Cardano, I'm very sorry, Richard. I was wrong about you. Yeah. Like, I kudos to Charles Hoskinson when he did that, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing is that what Richard did, there's not enough reality. That was a massive win for software, for crypto, for freedom. That's going to come back big time in the future. Trust me. But all of the stuff that's going to happen in the not too distant future is going to happen. And let me tell you something. All those people that were talking crap, they're going to bridge in and they're going to take massive bags. They're going to buy bags. of Richard Hart products, because there's no reason not to when you have all of the momentum and you have all the green candles and you have beat the SEC and you've done everything right. The detractors turn into buyers.
Yeah, totally, man. And once that happens, like, where else are you going to be in crypto? Like if you're not here over on PulseChain and see the opportunity with the fact that RH has so many tricks up his sleeve compared to anyone else who's founded any other coin in crypto, like, where's a better opportunity? And so I think that's where he's going to get everyone. And with the green candles, like, obviously that's the best marketing of all. And I think we'll really feel that, and then we'll feel the fact that they're coming over. So yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm just like hanging on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, one thing I think pTGC and UFO can do very well to help is currently, like, us moving up the ranks on CoinGecko. We're passing a lot of, some of the large tickers in the crypto world. And I think as obviously PulseChain goes up, we're going to start passing some of the bigger ones and bigger ones and bigger ones. And I think that's going to be a very big onboarding tool for PulseChain in general, right? If they see a grassroots asset just climbing day in, day out, and we can get the word out there, this isn't great marketing for only pTGC and UFO. This is great marketing for PulseChain in general. And I think that's a super valuable tool for our community to use moving into, what we believe is going to be a bullish market here for alt tokens. If our alt token is moving up faster than the other alt tokens, right, this could be a massive onboarding tool for PulseChain, because you have to come onto PulseChain to be exposed to these assets. Alt tokens alt tokens on other blockchains have been massive onboarding tools for blockchains. For Base, for Solana, for even Ethereum, for BNB. If you take some of their best alt tokens on the chain, those alt tokens actually have onboarded a ton of the users of that chain, not necessarily the chain itself.
Now, I think we saw a glimpse of that. When did we see a glimpse of that? We saw a glimpse of pTGC almost becoming like the spear to bring people across into PulseChain.
Yeah, you don't even need to hold
PulseChain being the spear.
You don't even need to hold it to use it, right? You can utilize the growth and the sustainability and the onboarding of this unique product on chain to onboard people to PulseChain, because even if you're not a holder of pTGC, let's say you're a holder of RH tickers alone, by onboarding people to pTGC, you are increasing the price of your RH tickers, every single one of them, because we're bonded to every single one of them. And just because you're not holding that specific product, it really doesn't matter, because, and I'm not saying don't hold it. I hope people do eventually start to grab a bag, even if they're not like the massive pTGC community member. They just want to be exposed to an amazing tool that we can use as the PulseChain community to onboard, right? As we start making our way up that list, we are going to be passing some of the largest names in the game, and those names are going to see us passing them.
And like you said, Zen, I think last Spaces or whenever it was, the fact that we've got whales lurking now and they're slowly buying into pTGC and UFO. We had, for example, someone, 60, 100K of Hex a couple of days ago, or, into pTGC. You've got, whales just slowly accumulating. If pTGC and UFO, if pTGC, because it is the larger market cap of the two, if that gets up in the next couple of weeks or so, if it gets up in the ranks on CoinMarketCap or the other one, CoinGecko, and you just get into that next. You get into that next bracket of investors that are willing to invest. So there are a lot of investors, Mando, Banana, you've mentioned this before, a lot of investors that won't touch assets under a certain market cap or a certain level of, confirmation of of the fact that it's,
large
proven and
large players need a certain size asset to even freely be involved in, right? You can't be a massive whale in a tiny ticker because there's just not enough liquid for you to thrive, right? That's why I always post that image of a whale sitting in a fish tank. Most people don't realize 99% of tokens are just a fish tank. You can't even put a whale in a fish tank. You need to grow to a certain size to where that whale can actually swim freely throughout your ecosystem with enough liquidity, with enough environment to actually thrive. And what we're kind of in the process of right now is we're evolving into that environment, because where we started was a fish tank, but we have the systems, the community, the code that we're constantly evolving. And if it's this cycle, it could be in a month, it could be in 2 months, we are evolving into an environment that is favorable for these larger players. We have built-in APY, we have the deflation, we have the liquidity, we have the scarcity, we have the community that will actually hold and support the price as these people enter in, right? Like, that's a big thing on our community is imagine, as these bigger players come in, and our bigger players actually respect the price, respect the pump, and let it grow and let it evolve and let it go up and let it become this big aspect or this big eyepiece within crypto that that just doesn't get dumped into like 99% of other projects. What this actually gives large players is a form of security. And think about it. If you let the big players come in and you're not just instantly selling on them, you let the price actually run. And let's say you let PulseChain actually run and you let the system do another 5x, which is very, very easy. Well, even now, to take your profits, you only have to sell a fifth of your asset to get the same amount of dollar value that you would have gotten before. So you now are still holding 80% of your position that you would have had to get rid of. And you let the whole system grow to this new level. You're earning APY on the value that you're still holding. You let the whole system revalue. You onboarded tons of people. Your chart's looking great. So now you're supporting what you actually hold more of, which is a pro. You don't want to hurt things that you hold. You want to help things that you hold. So it could really start to evolve really quick. And like the example that you're talking about, a hex person coming in with $100,000, right? And it was good. Our community let that person enter in. Players didn't just instantly sell on them, because that puts a bad taste in people's mouth. If you let the chart keep going and you let them get into profits too, this is really respectful to the big players coming in. But imagine it when it's not internal value just shifting to it, but external value. Like, we want the whales that are in Solana tokens to migrate over here. We want the whales that are in ETH to migrate over here. And the first step that we have to do is show respect to the people who are internal migrating over here as well.
Yeah, and those large whales external.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, those large whales external, like they're gonna look at a token that's 200 million market cap or 300 million market cap and think there's plenty of opportunity there. But then when the penny drops and they realize how much liquidity is actually in this sub-ecosystem, pTGC and UFO, and the fact that if they, and I'm sure if they're going to be thinking about putting a large size capital into it, I mean, they would be aware of, what that actually means, and the burnt liquidity as well with all the LP pools. It's just going to be like a light bulb moment in their heads, and they're going to come across, and all of a sudden, it only takes one click of a button, all of a sudden you've dropped 100, 200, 300K, and it's straight into the system. Go ahead, Amanda.
Well, right now, you can sell about $100,000 of pTGC in one pop at about a 4% slippage. So if you 4x the LP, right, you're going to be at a point where, an individual can come in and put $100,000 of PulseChain into the chart with like a 1% slippage. That's when it gets really interesting, because now you got the 5 in, 5 out, but when you got players that they can basically come in and come out with almost no slippage at that point, And that's with the current existing LPs just revaluing with the price of the course.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's not going to happen. That's silly.
Yeah, and a lot of people, a lot of investors, I'll use my words correctly, a lot of investors in crypto shy away from tax tokens. And I think there's been a lot of tax tokens on other chains in the past. You know, obviously they're very different setup to pTGC and UFO. But just to your point, Nando, like the tax on the buys and the sells, well, on a lot of other coins that aren't even tax tokens, the slippage actually outweighs the tax that you have to pay to get in and out of this system. So,
you know, I also bought the fact a couple of weeks ago. I was looking up, you know, some of the legacy investments. Some of the largest legacy investments, you have to pay a percentage of the capital that you're putting into fees. Not only upfront fees, but back-end fees and ongoing management fees and all kinds of different fees, right? So there's really nothing when you're talking about larger money where you don't pay to play. You don't have to pay, right? But all of those legacy type investments, they're all trying to get at between 3 to top tier 8% gain, APY, right? 3 to 8%. And you're earning that in the dollar. You're not earning that in something that's doing thousands of freaking X.
yeah, that's right.
It's not even in the universe what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is I don't think people have a big issue with a fee on entry or exit if the sustainability and price appreciation is good, right? If our code has enough data, or if our chart has enough data and our code is, you know, obviously running good, and let's say just sustainability wise, after we've revalued 100x, our code is still generating a 2x yearly on average, and there's enough data to actually look at this. If a user has to pay a 5% fee to be exposed to a system that has more sustainability than most alt tokens and stores of value, has more appreciation than most alt tokens and store of value, more deflation, and built-in APY, they're very easily going to expose themselves to the protocol for just a measly 5% fee. They would make that up 90% in just 1 year by the price appreciation. And that's just a 2x yearly. What we talked about earlier is just the mechanical demand that gets pushed through the system if our volume keeps increasing as it's been increasing. The code makes it do a 3x with a even amount of buy, sell, and sell pressure into the chart. So I personally don't think anyone's going to have a problem with the fee. Like Mando said, like pretty much everything that is relevant has a fee in this world. We just have to prove to have the sustainability and the price appreciation behind the product, which will take, you know, time. This takes time to get these larger players in. But once that stuff's proven, I see very large amounts of value flowing over to PulseChain just for this asset, and I see it going into pTGC without a blink at the fee.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. 217,000 in revenue in a week. That's almost 900,000 in a month, with no overhead, and it all goes back to the holders.
And we know, like
the truth is,
base yield
that this thing is not a meme coin. This thing is not a meme coin. It's a machine.
Yeah, but the great thing is, like, we know we can market as a meme coin. Like,
no, I know. But I'll be honest with you. I was all on board the meme coin train, and I am, because I love the Grays, and it's a great meme. It's a great mascot. The longer I watch this thing, man, it is a financial instrument. It is a financial product. It is a.
I know. It actually does it a disrespect cause.
In a way,
Yeah.
It's like putting it in the meme category. Personally, for me, I'm starting to be like, yeah, it's a cool meme, but I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
And It doesn't give it the respect it deserves.
Well, how many other cryptos?
What?
Yeah, how many other exactly? How many other cryptos are such utility based, such real DeFi type, mechanical plays, and then on top of that have a strong community, understands the benefits of long term holding and APY, and on top of that have a great mascots times 2 UFO pTGC, and can fit into narratives that keep playing out, like in the media, on and off, constantly, for some reason, the last couple of years, more than anything else. So, yeah, respect to that, Zen. You really picked the right mascots. That was a champion move.
Yeah.
Yeah, on how many cryptos generate that kind of revenue. I don't really know. Like when you look at the top 100 tickers, like the majority of them are companies, right? There are foundations and stuff like that, and you have to understand that most of those foundations have an extreme amount of overhead. So even if they're generating large amounts of revenue, the amount of overhead that they have to kick out sometimes, I honestly believe most of the time, exceed the amount of value that they actually generate through their utilities. And they actually have to sell their tokens onto the chart to support those foundations, or inflate the price, the quantity of tokens, etc. They have their VC allocations, so on and so forth. This product is super unique in that way that it has no overhead, but the ability to generate revenue, possibly larger than the largest cryptocurrencies that exist, which then kind of puts it in the category of some of those grassroots like meme tokens, because those don't have any overhead, the meme tokens that are in the top 100, but those don't generate revenue at all.
Right.
To me, it makes our system very, very difficult to compete against once we get into that top tier of assets. Like, we've been talking about the top 25 a lot recently, which if you think PulseChain is going to be remotely successful, the numbers that I'm running, as long as there's not some massive sell-off on pTGC, we very easily can get into the top 25 of all crypto assets. And imagine being there and having that value generation that we do have, just like some other large cryptocurrencies, but all of that going to back the holders and the price of the asset. And what that could be for an onboarding tool for PulseChain in general.
Yeah, getting in the top 25, getting in the top 50 in crypto, from grassroots, like this one was launched, in the same cycle, we're talking within the same, bull run. It's like winning the gold medal at the Olympics. Like, it's huge. You're up there competing with the biggest of the world, the Cardanas, the XRP, in terms of their market cap liquidity. It's huge. It's just, and I think I just don't think people grasp. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mando, Bernardo, jump in here. Anyone else? Has anyone else found a crypto where 100% of the revenue, and the revenue getting produced, as profitable as these two assets, 100% goes back into the system? Because I have never seen that.
Yeah, so what I've found is there is combinations of revenue going back into the asset, but it's not really well thought out. Like 100% of it sometimes goes to APY, or 100% of it goes to buy and burn, or 100% of it goes to LP, but not like a symbiotic mix of where, hey, users need APY, you need an incentive to hold long term. You also need price appreciation and something to back that APY as price goes up. So we have that. And then what's unique to our system is the consistency of the value generation due to the liquidity web, due to the fact that we're not dependent on the human interaction side of it, and we're just dependent on the market having volatility and volume, which is pretty much the only guarantee that markets can give. Up or down, we're generating this revenue, and we get to bring the revenue back. The other assets that I know of that kind of operate off of this idea, they don't have that. So they have that value generation for a week, but then by week 2, it's just dead. right? So then there's no value generation. And what a lot of people found out last cycle is if your utility doesn't have demand, your utility doesn't need to exist. You ultimately have no utility to that product, right? It's kind of like even when there'd be a product, and then this is the other way it was done last cycle too, is you kind of had this product and no one really needs to use your product. Your product doesn't have market fit really, because it's hard to come up with a product in crypto that actually needs to exist, not just a made up bot for a Telegram and so on and so forth. And then what they do is they just slap a token on the side of it and say, this is our token. And it's like, well, why does that need to be there? And they're like, oh, just because the answer is because we want you to buy it and we're going to sell it on. Right?
Yeah, totally.
So it goes the other way too, is you can have a token and they're like, oh, damn, like we need demand for this token, so we need a utility. And this is last cycle. And they're like, okay, let's market this utility of, hey, we have this bot. It's like, well, no one needs that bot, guys. No one needs it. There's hundreds of bots. The market is literally, bots are given away for free all day long for these Telegram groups, so on and so forth. No one needs it. So what they realized is it's actually easier to just market a meme token that no one needs than a utility that no one needs. And that's what really sets us apart, is our utility isn't actually dependent on the human demand. It's just dependent on the market doing the only guarantee that the market has, is up and down movements. Just like in the last 2 days, market shifted down. We generated revenue off of it. In a couple days, it's going to shift up, most likely. We'll generate revenue off of it. In a week, it'll probably shift down again. We'll generate revenue off of it again. It's just like the repeat story over and over again. Good news comes out, bad news comes out. Good news comes out, bad news comes out. We're the only system actually taking advantage of all of this volatility.
Yeah, and then the fully autonomous thing in the background, which is the constantly working mechanics of it. Which, but there's also another layer that you didn't mention just then, and it's the fact that some of those other examples you gave, that there, in most instances, there's actually unlocks. There's unlocks of tokens that aren't in the circulating supply, that either have been gifted to early investors or are part of the dev team, that they're able to sell on buy pressure coming in, and as you mentioned, Zen, we've got a killer whale in the background that's doing exactly the opposite.
That was like one of my big problems. Is when I was like looking for serious things to put value in on chain from money I was working hard from the outside world and wanted it to be in a riskier asset class where I could get good appreciation. The serious protocols that had companies behind it, utility behind it, they had this constant unlock situation and VC situation that was just pretty much sell pressure on the chart forever, right? Like in a year, this is coming out, or these VC allocations are coming out in 4 months, and it was just never ending. Or the foundation has this and they pay for their bills with the tokens, right? So even the most legitimate companies within crypto, the top 100 companies, mathematically, they don't really need their price to appreciate anymore because they were paid upon the launch of the product from the VCs. It's kind of like, this is my problem with sacrifices. If you've ever hired someone for a job, let's say you're going to hire someone to build a house, right? And do you hand them the entire paycheck for the entire build of that house before they start?
Nope.
Or upon completion? Obviously, progress payments as you go on.
Yeah.
You pay them progress payments as they complete each step. You don't give them the entire check. And this is kind of like the whole thing with VCs or sacrifices. You're paying them out for the entire job before they even shown to even have the material purchased.
Yeah, dude. If you did it
there's no incentive to actually. Well, there's just no incentive for the product to succeed.
Yeah.
They own tokens, but they've already been paid out so much that it really doesn't matter. Like they're literally living in a beach house somewhere. Then they just need to keep the price relevant, which it is relevant because these VC big companies are already on Coinbase upon launch.
In some instances, then it doesn't even stay relevant. Like I've been involved in, and you just don't think of it when you're in crypto. You don't think of the fact that, you know, in a real world scenario, would you give someone $1 million before they did the job for you? And there is no way in hell you would do that. But in crypto, I'm investing. I'm getting into something. Oh, this is an early invest. I've got to. Well,
yeah, that's the
I get an
roadmap.
advantage if I invest earlier than everyone else. When actually, if the product isn't complete, and that's another point. The fact that they have roadmaps to do
it's all a joke.
Along the way.
It's all a joke. The roadmap thing, it's a promise that something in the future is going to be awesome, and it's just like, why don't you just deliver an awesome product and they can just decide if they want to get involved after it's done?
It's actually the biggest
product's not awesome.
Yeah, it's the biggest fugazi ever. So the fact that you launched a product that was 100% complete because you ironed out all the kinks and you made sure that it worked like flawlessly before you brought it on the market, and then you had to, market it once it was launched to, voice and teach everyone what this asset is. And there's no roadmap because there's no need for a roadmap because it is 100% working flawlessly. It was a very different way of doing it, man. And hats off to you because it took a long time for a lot of us to really understand what the hell you created here. So yeah, that was awesome.
I think it's something a lot of people need. It was something I needed, is hence why I started working on it. And I think I'm not the only person. I think a lot of people needed something like this in crypto. When you understand that, like, you have to understand first that 99.9% of products that launch are literally to get the valuable tokens out of your wallet into the launcher's wallet, right? It can either be a straight up rug pull. It could be literally just a meme token that pumps and then dumps, not a rug pull, like they didn't pull the liquidity, but they had token supplies and they just sold it on you. Or like even the sustainable ones, like that are meant to last, don't last, right? Like you can put great effort into something, and in this environment, it's still very difficult to succeed because there's thousands of new projects launching out every single day, getting the attention of, the somewhat small community already. So it's very difficult to actually put your value in something on chain and it actually be in a good place. You've actually got a lot of competition there.
You got a lot of competition, and if you don't have a product that is just flawless of what it's doing, and then also is real, has real liquidity, has real long-term onboarding, has real community, and has real potential for growth and sustainability, then they fade very quickly.
I think too with pTGC is the fact that it's unique as well. Like it's unique even at these levels, right? But no one really even knows it exists. But once PulseChain starts making its run and like marketing for this chain takes place, and like normal crypto people, right? Because we're not normal crypto people. Whenever you talk to a normal crypto person, the people on PulseChain are so beyond them, it's insane. Like,
is it really?
Just right? Normal crypto people. This product is very, very unique. And when PulseChain revalues and they're actually exposed to this unique product, it's not like as simple as just replicating, a meme token to where you just launch it here or this there. It's, it's 3 smart contracts working together. And you could obviously just copy and paste the code, but you can't copy and paste the community. You can't copy and paste the liquidity, right? You can't copy and paste the buy and burns that we've spent doing for 2 years, the burnt liquidity, etc.
And the fact that it's on a layer 1 chain that is at its inception and, is about to start this insane uptrend. But we are going to benefit off like enormously is just the opportunity is just insane. I'm excited for this next leg up. Like honestly, I see pTGC and UFO. pTGC is the leading one because of the market cap size, just because of the size. Seeing that becoming a sphere of marketing for PulseChain.
Yeah, can you imagine if PulseChain becomes like what we all believe it is this new revolution of finance where it's this thriving economy where everyone actually has real self-custody of their assets? Like, could you imagine what pTGC could be within that city of a system? A new financial system built by Richard, where he's actually mathematically planned out the biggest pieces of the puzzle, where they're deflationary and they have limited supply and sustainable. And what pTGC could be within that city, what we have right now compared to where it could be, is so crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is crazy. And I got into this. I really did get into this because I wanted to be part of a movement. I wanted to be part of an alternate financial system. And now that we understand that this is really, it's the closest thing to real DeFi and a real alternate financial system out there that you can get in crypto, which means it's the leading one in the world in terms of this movement. And the fact that you were able to build such an amazing, flawless asset that you launched at the bottom, on inception of the layer one. That's just a recipe for, an explosion of, we hope, positivity and upside and wealth generation for years.
Yeah. I think Richard has that side of it really figured out, because without Richard, pretty much what pTGC is it's nowhere near to what it could be with Richard's help. And not his help, like we don't need him talking about it, we don't need him promoting it. We just, I personally believe what Richard's creating with PulseChain is a new financial system. And if Richard is actually doing that, and that's what we have here, and it appreciates in price over time and has some success, it gives pTGC the perfect foundation and the perfect environment to thrive in. Because in standard environments within crypto, it can't be what it could actually be here, which is like hats off to Richard for giving us this opportunity, because most of the time you're not given opportunities like this. Like even within pTGC, like how often are you able to be part of a grassroots protocol where we're literally like onboarding the community members that are building the foundation of the community from literally these spaces, and possibly one day being in the top 25 of all crypto assets?
That's insane to think about.
Like we're Banana. Like Banana is one of the biggest contributors to the success of pTGC, in my opinion, along with, a group of other people. But dude, Banana be working every single day. And he just stumbled across us one day. I was like, hey, I want to help. I think this sounds cool. I want to learn. And next thing you know, he's like a big contributor to a top 25 crypto asset.
Yeah, pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. Like I said, there's others that want to come up and ask questions. I'll just drop back a bit.
Yeah, what's up, Hex TA?
Good morning. Thanks for always grinding here at the pTCG dev group. How you doing, Zen?
Good. How are you doing?
Better than I deserve. I just wanted to take a little time to come up stage. Before, with your blessing, I'd like to shout out to my brother William Duggan in the audience, and Trevor. Welcome. And that goes with everybody down here in the audience. Thanks for showing up, and thanks for participating. Just your presence here helps the community grow. Zen, you talk about revenue generating. Tell me the similarities and the differences between the pTCG revenue generating machine and like a solid locked-in V3 position. Can you kind of juxtapose the similarities and the differences and how I benefit just by holding? And then the follow-on to that, how much supply is still left in the pTGC UFO ecosystem? What I'm trying to get at is the pTGC
you can just call it Grace.
Deflationary.
Yeah. So as far as the V3 liquidity providing, I think V3 liquidity providing is a great way for users who know how to V3 liquidity provide properly to earn passive income. Obviously, you want to be pairing usually things together that you think will kind of keep round tripping. Like one will go up and one will go down, and then the impermanent loss will come back, and then you want them to kind of veer apart again and then come back, as long as you're not trying to exit out or enter into a position of the other asset. Because with V3 liquidity providing, especially if you're doing very concentrated zones, you have extreme amounts of impermanent loss exposure. And if you do full ranges, obviously there's less of impermanent loss exposure there, but still impermanent loss exposure. Where pTGC, and then you are earning based on the liquidity that you're specifically providing. A lot of people don't like liquidity providing, in my opinion. A lot of people, even that liquidity provide, don't really know what they're doing, especially in V3. It's a lot more complex than V2. What pTGC can offer standard users is the ability to just buy and hold the asset. And even as pTGC goes up in price, you're not actually getting exited out of your position of the asset that matters. So let's say you held two assets and one of them did very, very well and you were V3 liquidity providing for an APY, you would actually be naturally getting exited out of that position of the asset that actually was going up. And the APY usually never even amounts to what you lost in the appreciation of the asset, to where with pTGC, you can buy pTGC, hold pTGC, stake pTGC. You're earning an APY that's competitive. Obviously, there is higher APY things out there, but usually that APY is coming from the chart. So we have the ability for price appreciation with APY, and you're not exposed to impermanent loss. Some people don't mind the exposure to impermanent loss, but I think this is a very good option for some people who don't want to be exposed, but also want to have their value working for them and earn an APY off of that, with part of that value that's working for them not only going to your specific holdings, your APY, but also a good portion of it going to the token's price as well, and the deflation of the token as well too. Does that answer that question decently? Hi, I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm kind of in spotty service, but that was the best explanation of what V3. Yeah. How about now? Sorry, audience. I know this is
I hear you now.
boring as hell.
No, I heard.
You got a copy on me? Anybody in the?
Yeah, you're in a bad spot. Why don't you
that was the best explanation. Go ahead.
There's a delay, Hex, so just go ahead with your statement, and we'll wait a few seconds for you to finish the statement.
Okay, that was the best explanation of what V3 is useful for and what's not useful. And I've had some success getting in a certain range where I actually had almost zero impermanent loss. But you know, the average crypto investor, if you will, I know user investor, not financial advice, but those that believe and want to hold an asset, you know, I think you're going to realize soon that the generation from the Gray's currency machine is going to take that stress and is going to take that.
Nuts.
Yeah, let's just drop it down for now, Zen. I think another big factor too, Zen, is that, you know, when you're earning yield in an asset like pTGC, and it's becoming such a valuable asset, right? It is generating you amazing gains. It is appreciating in value for you. It is a miner of more of those very things in and of itself, right? That's very different than providing bid side liquidity or whatever in a V3.
Yeah, because, you know, obviously with V3 liquidity provider, just standard V2 liquidity providing as well too, you are exposed to impermanent loss, especially if pTGC, let's say, keeps outrunning some of its bonded LP pairs. Like, let's say when it first launched, you're like, hey, I want to make some APY. I want my value to work for me. I just don't want this sitting in my wallet. So every time, or like, even let's say use PulseX as an example. Like, in the last 2 years, if you're holding PulseX, there's been tons of ups and downs, and a lot of people will LP provide to earn an APY off of those ups and downs, because a lot of times, you know, within months, it ends up in the same exact spot. But there is those times where it doesn't end up in the same spot. You know, pTGC is a great example of this, to where if you're LP providing on pTGC, you technically got exited out of your position by quite a bit because it ran up quite a lot. So I think it is important. It's not too important, right? There's been plenty of products that have been successful without it, but I do think this is one thing that makes our product superior than a lot of the other stores of values that exist. This is kind of what made Hex superior as well, is you don't have to do LP providing or lending and stuff like that to earn an APY off of your asset. You're actually paid by just holding up the price of the asset via staking, etc. And the value that it generates is very similar, like he was talking about, as LP providing V3 or V2. You're earning the value off of the trading volume flowing through your pair. So that's where that similarity is. It's just where pTGC stands out is you're not exposing yourself to the possible damage of impermanent loss. And again, sometimes in LP providing situations, you could earn a higher APY and round trip your impermanent loss and end up in the exact same spot. But most people don't do that. The truth is, I honestly believe 90% of people who do provide V3 liquidity end up like exiting or entering into a position that is the least of value. And the APY does not equal even close to what you could have had by just holding the asset that went up greatly.
Yeah, I'm back online. Just test. How's my audio and my level?
Yeah, we hear you good now.
Okay. Hey, audience, I apologize. Anytime I go to a Bluetooth setup in a vehicle, and I'm driving, by the way, hopefully there's not too much road noise, I get that lagging. Yeah. What I was, just to back up, Zen, when you articulated what V3, the reality of what V3 results can be, was the best example, and is really solidified of what I would use V3 going forward. Obviously, I've got two coins. I love both. You know, I'm not going to worry about that impermanent loss, but the ability to exit into another asset and collecting a minor fee and die or whatnot, you know, it's been beneficial. But for most people, when we talk about crypto adoption, you know, I think what you've done, and hopefully we can articulate it better, is you've already had that value, that revenue generating engine built into the protocol, where you're not just getting exposed to a number going up in the Grace currency necessarily. You're getting exposed to the market volatility of fees. So instead of being burned by paying endless gas fees, you're actually benefiting by the transactional nature of the blockchain.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like Richard used to talk about this a lot, the fact that people talk about volume and volatility as these pros to crypto. And a lot of them don't realize that the only people that used to, like before pTGC and UFO really, that used to benefit off of the volume and volatility are the DEXs, the LP providers, and the centralized exchanges. The volume and volatility actually had nothing to do with the price of the asset and the holders. So what this did is it just monetized one of the only guarantees that happen within markets and made sure that that value went, at least a portion of it, went back to the holders and the token's price. Obviously, the DEX is still making their money, which is great for us because that DEX is PulseX and we're bonded to it. So as the DEX goes up, we go up. And then, the system itself is the LP provider. So it kind of just compounds on itself within those V2 liquidity pools, etc. But we know this model, like if you look at how profitable centralized exchanges are, you look at how profitable DEXs are, and obviously LP providing is a very good revenue source for the people who actually know how to do it. Obviously, that's like on the higher end of education within crypto. Retail do not know how to do that, and they definitely need to spend some time in crypto to even expose themselves to that kind of stuff. So we know it's a great way to generate revenue, and within pTGC, it's actually like an easy button to be exposed to that revenue generation.
Yeah, and even so, I'm 52. I'm a Gen Zer. Even my age bracket, those of us that have kind of, we put the wild west. We put our youth behind us. All of our hard work and working hard and partying even harder. Now we're looking at I need an exit position. I need some exit liquidity to get out of the game alive. My generation has an abundance of wealth out there, and most of that wealth is doing nothing but just buying things that go to zero in a good time, not necessarily a long time. But we're all waking up and realizing, okay, we're behind the curve. We're in our 50s. We need some sort of passive income, so we can get to an area in our life where we're doing what we want to, that following our passions instead of making someone else rich for a living. Getting that mindset, connecting that wealth, that stagnant wealth that's just sitting around, and giving it a job to do. What I'm trying to say is there a dashboard, is a website just to see, in simple terms, just how much revenue in a red chart, in a green chart, through the Grace currency machine is actually being generated and furthermore being reinvested into the protocol and thus into the community. I know that was a long-winded question, but we got to break things down simple to realize just by holding an asset, you're actually making money in fees.
Yeah, have you looked at the Look Into pTGC website at all? It kind of has something like that on it, and I just made a post about it 2 days ago.
Hex, look at the Jumbotron up above. It's a screenshot of the Look Into pTGC website, and it shows, if you click on it, that last week the system generated $217,000 in revenue, and it breaks down how that revenue was distributed inside of the ecosystem and to holders.
Yeah. I guess as an instructor, as a trade instructor, I'm kind of trying to lead in the audience. And audience, thank you for listeners. Hey, community members, this is not for anybody, if I'm saying anything that's way beyond or way below your crypto knowledge, you need to forgive me. But more of a Hex T Armstrongs are going to be coming into this community. We need more replications of me, but not everybody's going to be able to pick crypto market strategy up and even know where to go. So I'm kind of leading.
That's a different question though, brother. Right? You asked one question, and you know me, man. We've known each other for a long time. But you asked basically, is there information that shows the revenue generation and where it goes, and how it's being generated and where it goes? It's there. You can go to look into ptgc.com.
Yeah, that's good, and that's something when I'm talking to my friends and family. Now I've got another tool in my toolbox.
I'll DM you the link so you don't forget it.
Yeah, and,
Cool.
and we're also working on a few other charts that can show how that can grow or shrink or expand over time, with the blockchain we're built on being more successful, with the blockchain we're built on being possibly retracing in a bear market. We're trying to get even more analytics on this information to help users make educated decisions on how they plan their future. Ultimately, the more information we can lay out and better visualize or create individuals for users, I think will help everyone make better decisions, and then also help people onboard users who care about like the growth of a system and how it generates the value and how that could change over time. Because what we all obviously believe is what pTGC is today is not what it's going to be 3 years from now, 4 years from now, right? If PulseChain becomes successful, the machine will naturally evolve into a bigger machine, and the value generation will grow as well because of the mechanical functions and because human demand flowing into PulseChain in general. So definitely we're trying to work on getting more information out there as far as the analytics go as well.
Yeah, and just one more follow-up question, and thank you for answering my questions. What about, is Scarcity baked into the overall race currency machine? Tell me about the tokenomics, about dwindling supply.
Yeah, so in the design of pTGC, I did not only just study cryptocurrencies, I was also studying real world assets that had value, right? Because we didn't need to reinvent what gave things value. We have thousands of years of history of what has given things value for thousands of years. One of the biggest things that gives things value is its scarcity, right? Scarcity and demand is literally economics, right? Supply and demand. So we implemented supply and demand principles in pTGC as its foundation. Every single transaction is buying and burning the asset. A buy and burn is simply like just supply and demand 101. You're adding demand and reducing supply with every single transaction. Currently, we've bought and burned. The value of the pTGC is like, it's 12.6% of the supply we've bought and burned to date. It's currently worth like $33 million. So that's $33 million of pTGC that will never re-enter the market. And that debt address, I've been calling it the killer whale recently, because killing pTGC tokens, it's sending them to the debt address. It's buying and burning every single day. So every single day, the pTGC asset and the UFO asset are becoming more and more scarce. And there's only 2% of the supply even on the market for the rest of the world at today's date, right? Like right now, there's only 2% of the supply. Literally, no one even knows PulseChain exists, let alone knows pTGC exists. And what we believe is going to happen is a massive marketing push in the near future. So if a massive marketing push happens for PulseChain, that technically is a marketing push for pTGC as well, because people could come to this chain and also see pTGC. There's only 2% of the supply for the rest of the world, and the code, the killer whale, the burn address is buying more of it every single day and never going to sell it. This is one of the most scarce assets that I know of that exists. And even if you look at some of the most like assets that have been successful due to scarcity, they're really not that scarce, right? Like gold is a great one, right? Gold has scarcity. Gold kind of has a utility. Gold has value, liquidity, but they're mining more of it every single day. Obviously, it costs money to mine it, but it does have an inflationary supply. Bitcoin, also a very scarce asset, it has a controlled supply. Only so much comes out every single year, and it's halving constantly. But still, since Genesis, 15, 12 years ago, whatever the Genesis was, it's been inflationary this entire time. Since the day pTGC came out, it's deflationary. 5 years from now, it will have way less supply than it has today. And again, there's only 2% on the market for the rest of the world. As long as our holder base sees value in holding their asset and not completely just dumping the chart, which could happen, who knows? But let's say they just hold even, maybe they just sell APY, so on and so forth, and just a remote amount of demand comes on chain, we already know our code base is going to contribute a ton of the demand and supply shrinkage due to how the code is set up. So yeah, it's definitely, I'd say, one of the biggest things that we implemented into pTGC was the control of supply and demand, because we know if you control supply and demand, you technically can control the price.
So supply shock is gonna be a real thing in crypto very soon.
Yeah, I think we're partially already seeing it. We have to remember there's literally less users here on PulseChain than there was when PulseChain first launched. So in 2 years, we have less and less and less users. As far as like value on chain and people active on chain, they're just leaving, or just kind of their wallets are going idle, etc. And we've still not ran out of demand. Our code is constant demand. We have new buyers every single day, 23 a day on average this month. I think it was 700 new holders throughout the last month. And there's still no real new users coming to this blockchain. So the supply side's already figured out. It's getting less and less every single day. As market volatility and volume picks up, this amplifies that system even more. And then the real demand, in my opinion, still hasn't shown up. So as soon as that shows up, we have supply side figured out for the most part. I think Richard also has his supply side figured out really well as well. And all we need is, some marketing, some demand, and what that could do for the price of these assets is possibly like some crazy numbers. And that's kind of what we're all along the ride for and waiting to see and excited for.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And always, I held pTCG about 3 days after I bought my first EX back in December. So I appreciate the education, your time, the dedication to the community. It's always great. The audience that shows up for these spaces are loyal, same faces in and out. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being part of the community. And request that mic, come up and ask your questions. If I can ask a dumb question, anybody else can do the same thing. And when it comes to education, there's no dumb questions, only stupid answers.
I really appreciate you coming up, and like you said, I appreciate the people who are just listening to it. It makes it very rewarding for me to, show up here and do these spaces when you have people willing to listen and ask questions and come up. So thanks for coming up. I do really appreciate it. That's what these are for. So thanks. Yeah, one thing, that the deflationary side, the very scarce supply side, that's one thing that I can't really even pinpoint to like a good real world example, because a lot of the real world examples that are scarce, that the scarcity drives a lot of the value, are not deflationary. So like when you look at luxury goods, the scarcity of them really gives them a lot of that value. But even the scarcest cars have new cars getting put into the market every single day. You know, you look at top Ferraris, Lamborghinis, those are all inflationary supplies. They're just very, very scarce. So, and then you look at gold, you know, you look at Bitcoin. These have been some of the scarcest assets that exist. And the scarcity has really driven the value, but they're not deflationary. So I'm very interested to see how the supply and demand shock actually occurs when you have a legitimately deflationary supply to where the system itself is buying up a lot of the supply that's on the market for even purchase. That's, you know, one of my examples is like we studied a lot of like the in real life things that gives things value. Like, you know, obviously I think one, they call it Veblen goods and stuff like this. This is like luxury goods, luxury cars, luxury watches. And the fact that they're higher price and that they're scarce just gives them even a higher price and more scarcity, because every single time one of these objects goes onto the market, there's literally a line of people waiting for them to be on sale. For the luxury cars, like literally they have an email list of people just waiting for one of these cars to be made. They're already sold before it even hits like a lot. They don't even hit the lot. Even for watches, right? There's a long line of people just waiting for these watches to be sold and at a price that they're willing to get. I personally believe a long line is going to be established for pTGC at discounted prices in the future, because the price will be high, way higher than it is here, and users will probably buy it at market price, but they'll probably also have a reserve of funds on the side waiting for a discount on pTGC. As soon as that discount appears, that's like, you know, a luxury vehicle getting put on sale. You know, hey, this car's for sale. This is the price. Usually there's someone picking it up within 30 minutes. I think they just send an email out to their email list and literally it's sold. So we're utilizing a lot of the same ideas that have been done in the real world to give things value. We're just doing it on chain with all these other features being built and amplifying what we believed are the features that matter, like liquidity, etc.
Does anybody else care to come up and ask a question or make a comment? It's interesting that Ethereum has lost a little bit, or let's put it this way: Bitcoin has gained a little bit of its dominance, at least for the first 2 days of August. I'm looking at the chart. You know, Ethereum was up against Bitcoin for May and July pretty significantly, and so far this month in August, where it has pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, it's more like the safe haven crypto. So when the Fed didn't do the rate cuts, you know, and then you had some more tariff talk, you know, it's a normal ratio shift, I think.
Yeah, agreed. And Bitcoin is down at 113,000 right now. It's been a while. I think it's just, yeah, like you said, the talk of tariffs. It'll pick back up.
Final shakeout. All right. Final shakeout.
The final shakeout. Yeah.
We said that 100
I
times.
think yesterday the Dow collected almost 600 million pulse for proposals. Currently now there's 223 million pulse already since last night available in the Dow. And I think, what is today, the 2nd? Yeah, I think there's like another 300 million coming out today.
Beautiful.
It's just going to buy up. It's just going to buy up the tokens, guys, and get them out of there.
Yeah, hopefully, what these next months feeds us is some good volume and volatility. That's what we've been seeing the last month is good volume and volatility on chain, along with price appreciation, which is great. We want the volume and volatility with the price movement up. Obviously, in the last 2 years, it's been a little bit of the opposite, volume volatility with price movement down. So let's hope that it just keeps trending in the right direction here on PulseChain. We get the volume, we get the volatility, and we get the price appreciation of the assets we're bonded to. This is something we've only seen in slight short periods at a time. PulseChain going to like double sack price and then like 80% of sack price, which is nothing really too impressive. So let's hope that an impressive move here comes in the future, along with, just the market doing what the market does, ups and downs daily. That DAO keeps raking in value. The automatic functions within buy and burns for pTGC and UFO keep raking in. The automatic LP ads and APY for holders and stakers just keeps increasing. And I'm excited to see what the machine does. We've gotten 2 years of data to kind of track, and every time Pulse has moved up, we've seen the machine really start to turn on, and really every time Pulse has gone up, it hasn't gone up much. So with a significant move on PulseChain, I could make a pretty educated guess that we'll see the machine start to generate even more revenue, which equals more APY, more buy and burns, more LP ads, and also price appreciation from the assets we're connected to, along with our own unique demand and buy and burns within our code. A few months ago and stuff like that, we were talking about how, it really felt like the bottom of PulseChain. And every time PulseChain hit its bottom, that was kind of marking the exact bottom for pTGC as well. It was in the past 2 times, which now is 3 times, since it does feel like we've hit our bottom on PulseChain. I hope. What that probably equaled was a bottom on pTGC as well. Obviously, it's a higher low, though, within our system, but still the local low of this market's microcycle. And it looked to play out just like that. A month and a half ago seemed to mark the low for PulseChain, the low for pTGC, and now the system's moving up and, to a higher direction, we hope, hopefully making new all-time highs and hopefully making new all-time highs of value generation as well and liquidity in the future.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Zen, PLS is officially in an uptrend on the daily. Come back and retested the double bottom that's printed on the chart. So hopefully it doesn't go too much lower, and that's the retest of the break and the upward trend now on the daily. Then it gets confirmed on the weekly, and then all of us are here for the monthly as well. So and I've spoken to other individuals here in this space and still privately. I'm not going to name any names, but I hope everyone's getting excited because PulseChain itself is going to be a beast. It's going to be a beast. It's a Richard Hart layer 1 asset, and you're at the bottom of the chart at inception. So if PulseChain from the bottom can do 100x plus, which in my opinion it will, then just think about what pTGC and UFO can yield in terms of chart and price action and APY and community and everything else. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I know.
The fact that there is only this many people still in a TG after 24 months of watching this suite of smart contracts work together, that's what it is. It's code on a blockchain. The fact that there's 25 people in here or something like this, it's just indicative of the opportunity.
I think Banana's got on his one I think there's 2 spaces running. Banana, you've got like about almost 200, and then we've got about 60-ish. But you're right, Nando. This is minimal numbers to an asset, which is just, you know, what we've seen now as like, you know, just exceptional compared to 99.99% of cryptos out there. I think it's the fact that you just don't have that next round of mass investors come into PulseChain, and once they do, they'll just be shocked. They'll be shocked.
Yeah, I think that obviously shows how early we are, and that kind of leans into the thing I was talking about with Banana. Like, how often do you have the opportunity in crypto to, with it being kind of grassroots, with us in these spaces with only 30 people or whatever it is, and you could be part of the journey, the revolution of becoming a top 25. You know, obviously this is dependent on the success of PulseChain and stuff like that, but to become one of the largest crypto assets that exists, you know, with the help of Richard and, you know, our community holding strong, and, you know, keep just doing what our code doing what it's been doing. But it is a unique opportunity. And, you know, like we said, there's only 30 people in here. No one even knows this opportunity exists. When general public starts finding out about this product and about PulseChain, obviously we could be at that point in the top 200, 100, and so on and so forth. And we'll have a lot more data then, a lot larger community, a lot more liquidity, a lot more value generation. The system will continue to evolve over time.
Something that the community is clearly anxious about is when is Liberty Swap going to include pTGC and UFO? I see that question quite often. It came up on YouTube just a little bit ago. So if we have any updates on that, we'd appreciate updates.
Yeah, I don't really have any updates on that. That has nothing to do with me. I really hope they list us, but obviously because we're a fee on transaction token, it does offer some unique difficulties to getting pTGC and UFO implemented within their system. This is one of the hardships of being a fee on transaction token, is it's very hard to incorporate with other products. This is a big reason why I think a lot of people don't like fee on transaction tokens. They are hard to incorporate with other systems. So they said that they're working on a smart contract, or they're going to look into working on a smart contract that makes it possible for pTGC and UFO to be listed. If it doesn't happen, it's not that big a deal for me. If PulseChain is successful and pTGC develops and turns into a premier store of value on this chain, I do believe eventually people will find the workaround as far as Liberty Swap. Because if this tool is actually onboarding tons of people to PulseChain, like I believe it will, like I hope it does. I want it to be a supporter of the chain. I want it to help onboard people to PulseChain, help appreciate the price of PulseChain and RH's assets. With our own success, as we show that we are a premier asset on this chain, eventually I think they will find the workarounds and make it a top priority, even if it's not a top priority right at this moment.
Cool.
My outlook kind of always has been with even centralized exchanges, right? Like I don't see us being listed on a lot of centralized exchanges either because of the fee on transaction. But who knows, right? You become so big, they find ways to make things work because they want to access your volume, etc. But by just Richard's tickers being listed on these things, if Richard's tickers got on centralized exchanges, with Richard's tickers easy to access by general public, whenever people access and increase the value of the tickers we're connected to, this increases the price of our asset and increases our liquidity, and also generates us revenue if those thresholds are met and market makers need to shift value throughout our pairs. So even without us being directly listed, we directly are being affected in a positive manner by the success of the things we are bonded to and the adoption of the things we are bonded to. Which is very unique, right? On other blockchains, this stuff doesn't exist really. The success of your product because of another alt on the chain doing well or going up just doesn't really exist.
Mm-hmm.
But here, we are working as a team due to this liquidity bonding. Really, pTGC and UFO are the ones massively bonding all these assets together. As the things that we're bonded to succeed, it will help us succeed over time.
It was nice to see UFO doing so well this week.
Yeah, UFO had a great week.
I think it's important to note where the assets have landed in market cap, because we were just under 70 million market cap for pTGC just not that long ago, and now it's at a 200, and UFO is around 40 something. This is at the bottom. So what we're witnessing is the floors of these tokens through the ebbs and the flows continue to land at higher and higher and higher floors, even when the cores retrace back to basically lows. So we have big pushes in volume, everything goes up, everything comes back down, but when these assets come back down, they're coming back down at much higher valuations. Why is that? That's because we've added 700 plus users in the last 30 days. That's because the system's bought and burnt Zen in the last 30 days. How much do you think the system's bought and burnt?
God, I was saying that earlier. I think it's probably around 300K or something like that.
Yeah, 300 to 400K that the killer whale is just buying off of weak hands and just getting those tokens out of there, right? Then you have a portion of those tokens that are just literally sent to the LP, and the only way you can get those tokens is to buy them. So those basically are in a dead address unless somebody buys them, and that's the only way they could ever sell them. And then a large portion is going to holders that have strong hands that aren't selling them, right? So when you have all these math and these mathematical dynamics going on, with every massive move of the chain, you're going to create a higher floor. Because how can you not? Unless, some major player capitulates, but that would be a very temporary thing because there's so much demand on this product. And any retracement at a certain ratio against PulseChain, and you got big players coming in and buying the product.
Yeah, especially if that ratio shift is when other assets are up, right? Like a lot of the low ratio numbers that we've seen on pTGC have been at like the lowest prices of Pulse in general. So even at those times, it's, I think, mentally very difficult for players to make that shift, even with that discount in front of them, because their current assets are at lows. And this is like a human psychology thing, is it's hard to do a shift on an asset that you're kind of down on. But when you're up on that asset, it's very easy to take advantage of a discount. So even in the future, if the assets we're bonded to are doing very well and a random discount appears on pTGC or UFO due to someone taking profits, right? That's why people are in crypto. This happens not only within pTGC and UFO, this would happen with any product that goes up in value. I believe that people will take advantage of those discounts, kind of like that Veblen goods scenario, to where when you have a luxury item that is very scarce with high demand, as soon as one of those items go on the market, there's a line of people willing to buy it at that discounted price. You guys have anything else?
I have something. I would like to see everybody going to pulsefolio.com. Can't see you, obviously, but everybody go to Pulsefolio and vote for the Grays. We can do it twice a day. I did it first thing this morning. I can't do it until 7 o'clock tonight, but I'm going to make it happen. And we can vote from our phones too. If all you have is a phone, you can vote from your phone. And if you need the link, go into the Telegram. I posted it there this morning. I've been posting it multiple times per day. The more active the chat is, the more times I'm going to post it, because I want to keep that in front of us. We need a number of votes to take the 1 and 2 position, but we'll just keep working at it. I think UFO and pTGC should be in at least the number 2 and 3 position within 30 days. But I'm not sure about that number 1 position. They're stacking up votes pretty quickly.
Yeah, I really wish they would make it to where people couldn't go around the system and vote multiple times a day, because it's very rewarding to people who just want to take advantage of that loophole.
From what I understand, they are blocking people. Like if you hack the system, they'll block your IP. So you got to be careful of that. Don't vote more than twice a day from the same IP.
Yeah, but I definitely think that's how that one beat us. So obviously they're not really implementing it too much to date. So that's kind of the one bummer with that. But yeah, as a community, we're very strong. So as a community, let's, in a fair fashion, following the rules, let's vote when we can to at least maintain our positions as is, or take out the other higher positions.
Yeah. And why is it important to vote? Well, why is it important for people to land on pTGC and UFO when they come over to PulseChain, or for these 2 tokens to be accurately represented on this site? Because we're an index of the best tickers on the chain. We are literally outperforming all the core tickers and other tickers on the chain. So everybody should start here, in my opinion. So we need to be in the top row on Pulsefolio. We need to be accurately represented as much as reasonably possible. We don't got to break our necks to make that happen, but let's make a reasonable effort.
Definitely. Anything else, guys?
I don't have anything on YouTube. Yeah, it's pretty quiet. It's quiet across the chain.
One thing, I think we're going to have some good times here very soon. I think one of the best marketing pieces for pTGC is the coin listing on CoinGecko. So as we're kind of making our way up the ranks, let's showcase one of the coolest, things that we have going on for us, that we are properly listed on CoinGecko, where a lot of people look at that site. It's great to show us not only against the PulseChain ecosystem, but more importantly to me, showing how we're doing against the broader crypto market, showing us gain traction and make our way up that list against the rest of crypto, I think is very unique to this product, that we can list high on the top of all cryptos in crypto. And I believe we're going to be making our way up that list. So let's very much utilize that unique feature within pTGC, not only helping onboard new users from other blockchains to PulseChain, but new users from other blockchains specifically to pTGC and UFO as well. This is a huge step that we have to make on PulseChain. At some point, there needs to be new value flowing into this chain. I personally think that we're a perfect Trojan horse for this. And that coin listing site, us going up that ranking, is a great way to showcase that.
Absolutely. In May, we were number 549. In June, 552. And in July, yesterday, 293. Yes, actually the day before yesterday. But you see where the trend is going. We literally cut it almost in half between May and July. In 3 months, we reduced our position by half. So
yeah, let's keep going at it. And
yeah,
this is a huge step for us as a sub community. We can make a lot of traction, I think, for onboarding the PulseChain by just making our way up this list. And then I also think it's a great tool for PulseChain to use as we get ourselves up this list, even if they're not a pTGC holder. Having the ability to showcase a PulseChain asset in that top 100, or higher. I know our current goal right now is we want to get into the top 25. This is a massive marketing tool for PulseChain. And again, because we're bonded to not only PulseChain, but all of RH's tickers, as we go up, we actually appreciate the price of the RH tickers that other people hold as well. With our success, we actually increase the success of the things we are bonded together with. So I don't think a lot of people realize that right now, but as we go up and as we start dragging these other assets up, I think that will click for them, and we will start to get more push in this idea of us making our way up this rank, because they'll realize, wow, this is actually bringing value to PulseChain. This is actually appreciating the prices of the assets that we hold, even if we don't hold this specific token. It's a Trojan horse for our whole entire ecosystem, and more people will get behind it and probably cheer us along across the finish line, etc. Even if they don't have their bets on us.
yeah.
Cool, guys. If there's nothing else, I'll shut it down. Everyone can enjoy their Saturday.
That sounds good to me, man.
Yeah, thanks, Zane.
All right, see you guys.
See you guys. There's a quiet space. And that's okay. You're going to have your exciting days and your not so exciting days. But let's go have some exciting days. So if you're new and you want to walk through the Grace currency ecosystem, my mic should be working tomorrow. Jump on my stream tomorrow. It'll be at 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'll walk through the whole ecosystem, pTGC, UFO, and we do some educational slides. It's good. I mean, it's something I wish that I had access to when I first came in. If you know anybody that's new, any of your onboards or, that sort, send them to my stream. Not so I get clicks, but so that they can get acclimated and know what they hold. All right, guys, and go vote on PulseTGC.com. We'll see you guys later. Have a good weekend. I mean, Pulsefolio. Pulse, that's where you got to vote. Pulse, PLS Folio. See you guys.